Today we're in Chapter 1, Section 2, and we're going to continue talking about the vocabulary terms. The first thing we're going to talk about today is the opportunity cost. And the book defines our opportunity cost as the cost of the next best alternative used, whether it be money or time or resources, when one choice is made rather than another. So no matter what we do, there's always going to be a trade-off, which is the term we discussed in the last discussion. It's because of scarcity, because we have limited resources. So the opportunity cost of something is what you sacrifice to get that. So to explain that further, we're going to have to look at that production possibilities frontier. And this is discussed on page 16 of your book. This chart here that I have as an example is they're looking for production possibilities frontier, or PPF, which we also refer to as the production possibilities curve, or PPC. What this curve right here looks like is the amount of resources that we could put out. It's a diagram representing all possible combinations of goods and services an economy can produce when all productive resources are fully employed, meaning using everything that we can. In this section, this example, we're looking right here at the output of pizza versus the output of sugar. So everything on this line shows where we are when it comes to the output. You look at A, B, and C are efficient output combinations, and they lie on the PPF, which I'll explain more in a second. D and E are inefficient combinations because they're not using all the resources. They don't fall on the actual curve or the frontier. And F out here is an output combination that is not attainable, meaning that we're using too much resources and we don't have enough to reach that goal. I'll explain again in just a second. So opportunity costs are choices. The choices we have are, how should I spend my money, or how do I spend my time? Opportunity cost is always measured by how much you give up of the next best alternative to get what you want. And what we're going to talk about frequently is the idea that an opportunity cost is, coming here to school in the morning. You gave up the ability to sleep in longer so that you become more educated, so that you become more efficient. If you came here, you gave up sleeping. So the value of sleeping for you being here is your opportunity cost. So how does that look then on a PPF? This is an example here of a PPF, all right, and this is again the curve, the frontier. The opportunity cost is the quantity we're looking at here is the quantity of computers produced versus the quantity of cars produced. And when we look at these examples, it really doesn't matter what we put here, but these examples are here just to show you what it might look like. This could be good A versus good B. So when we start here, when we're looking at this, this says the whole idea is start at B, and there's 800 cars and 1,500 computers. All right? What that is, B1, that means that for every 1,000, when we're looking at our furthest and strongest output, we have the possibility of making 1,500 computers and at the same time 800 cars. So say we want to increase the number of computers to 2,000, meaning that we're still going to use all of our resources, all of our output abilities. At point B, we are producing 2,000 computers but only 600 cars. So if we go from B1 to B2, it increases the production by 500. We must give up the car production by 200, which means, again, if we move from B1 to B2, still staying on our curve or our frontier, where everything is being worked as hard as it possibly can be, to move there, we're actually going to give up the ability to make 200 cars in order to make 500 more computers. So that's movement along that curve. The negative slope of the PPF implies whenever we increase production of one good, we must give up some of the other good, meaning because we're moving up the curve in either direction, we're giving up something. So for instance, if we went from 800 to 1,000 cars on this PPF, we don't have the ability to make 0 computers. So opportunity cost and production possibilities. The production possibility curve illustrates the principle of opportunity cost for an entire economy. So whenever I gave you the example of cars and computers, we could use anything. My favorite example, of course, is guns and butter. It shows that all possible combinations of goods and services available to an entire economy, and the principle of opportunity cost explains why production possibility curve is negatively sloped, meaning that it moves in either direction. It's going to be a negative for the other possibility. So when we looked at shifting the production possibility curves, the production possibility curve will shift out if we change the way we do outputs. This means that there could be an increase in the economy's production factor. There could be a newfound natural resources, better or more trained labor, physical capital, human capital, or entrepreneurship, meaning investment into this business or industry that have a fundamental change on our maximum amount of output. Technological innovations that increase output from a given amount of resources. So when we're looking at this curve, what you see is we have an original curve, our original PPF or PPC, and we're talking about here thousands of computers per year versus number of space missions per year. So before, we started at C, which was for every 500 computers, we were able to produce at the same time 2 missions to space. Now with technology advancing, the invention of new types of capabilities or advancement of different technologies, we actually see that the curve can grow out or move to the right. And what we do is we create a new PPC or PPF. In this scenario, what it shows is that we now can create 100 more computers and at the same time not sacrifice the amount of space missions, meaning that we still have 2. The capability we can measure is we can make now, because of the new technological changes, is we're making 100 more computers and we still are not losing any space missions because we have a production possibility curve change or shift in the curve. That being said, if we still use the new curve and we have 500 computers per year, we're able to sacrifice or create 5 missions per year in space. So we have the same idea of movement along that curve or frontier because of the new technologies and the changes that are out there. Some other things to discuss when we're looking at the way things are changing is the idea of a marketplace. And a marketplace is an arrangement which allows buyers and sellers to exchange money and goods. You look at it from the area of where do we see things, where do we buy it, not so much as a shopping market, but in an area of where we can buy or exchange. So why do markets exist? The first thing is we have to understand that we as people are not self-sufficient. We specialize in what we do best. So we trade for what we make for goods or services that we need, or for money to buy goods and services that we need. And the markets facilitate the specialization and exchange. So for instance, if you're a farmer and you have those goods that you produce from the farm, let's say you produce corn. Corn is not going to be the only thing that you need to be self-sufficient. So people who own that farm could take the corn and sell it at a marketplace or facilitate an exchange, whether it be with another company for money or with individuals for money. In that same sense, they get the money back in return where they could go out and buy the other things that they need in order to survive. So it creates a marketplace or demand. A couple other concepts I just want to briefly discuss so they have a background knowledge before we get to those sections is the idea of comparative advantage in exchange. And this example here is the productivity of 2 different individuals. Let's say, for instance, in our market we only produce 2 things. We produce bread and we produce shirts. So when we look at the 2 people we have, meet Brenda and we have Sam. Brenda has the ability to create or prepare 6 loaves of bread per hour, where Sam only produces 1. If she's working on making shirts, she could produce 2 shirts per hour, where Sam only produces 1. Now, being a layman and looking just at this, you're able to see, wow, it makes sense that Brenda is definitely more productive than Sam when it comes to both. So the ability is called the absolute advantage, or the ability of one individual to produce more of all goods being compared. Brenda has an absolute advantage over Sam when we're looking at this model. Going back again to the concept we're discussing today, the idea of opportunity cost. The opportunity cost for Brenda and Sam shows that for every 3 loaves of bread, that Brenda creates, okay, it costs 1/3 for every 3 shirts it creates, it takes away 1 loaf of bread. Or for every 1/3 of a loaf of bread, it takes away her ability to make 1 shirt. So the cost of creating loaves of bread for Brenda is 3 shirts. The cost of creating shirts for Brenda is 1/3 of a loaf. Where Sam has a 1-to-1 ratio. He could either make 1 loaf of bread and the opportunity cost be the 1 shirt, or if he creates the 1 shirt, his opportunity cost is the 1 loaf of bread. The person should have to produce the good that he or she has the comparative advantage with, the lower opportunity costs, to reduce the amount of sacrifice in that given market. So how does specialization help? If Brenda uses 1 hour of shirt production for bread production, she makes 2 fewer shirts and 6 more loaves of bread. If Sam uses 3 hours of bread production for shirt production, he has 3 more shirts and 3 fewer breads. So overall, when we look at specialization, you're going to have 1 more shirt and 3 more loaves of bread if you assign the roles that make the most amount of sense based off of the opportunity cost. This is important when we talk about especially the whole idea of the global economy. When you're talking about international trade, we don't have the ability to create all the things we need, and some of the things that we have, we create so much of it that we're able to send it to other places. Some of those things that I think about are soybean, corn for ethanol. We create them in the United States, in the breadbasket of the United States, and we ship them overseas, and we trade for other goods or for money to help create more stimulation to our economy. Exports are the goods produced in the U.S. and sold in another country. Inputs are going to be goods produced in another country that are produced or purchased by the citizens in the United States. So to leave you with this section for review, I'm going to have you work on a small assignment, and it's going to talk about opportunity costs and also the production possibilities curve, or the PPC or PPF. In this, what we're going to look at is the car manufacturer Toyota and Lexus. You're going to create a chart, and it's going to show you how it works. When you create 5,000 Lexus vehicles, you can't create any Toyota vehicles. When you create 4,440 or 400 Lexus, you have 500 Toyotas. You're going to create a PPF and a PPC to show what the difference is based off of this chart that I'm going to provide you. I'm also going to ask you to answer some questions about opportunity costs, and then we have a small activity.